Hey everyone, this is Jarek with the Grace Company. Thank you so much for joining us today. And today with me, I have, if you'd like to introduce yourself, Jason from Gall Sewing Center.
Yep, Jason from Gall Sewing and back. We're in Grand Rapids, Lansing, and Muskegon, Michigan.
Awesome. And their information is at the bottom of the screen right here. So if you have any questions throughout the show, go ahead and take a look at the bottom here. They have a really great in-store location there that you can go try our product. And Jason, give me a quick overview. What are like a couple of our products that you have there that people can try out? Because I can see you have two right there in front of you.
Yeah, we try to carry the full line of Grace products, and we've been with Grace for almost as long as you've been alive. So
it's been a long relationship.
So. Yeah, and so the Rebel, their new machine, but then the 16, the 19, the 21, we have their your computer system in the stores for to be able to run the Quilt Motion, the QCT6 Pro, so plus and entry level.
That's awesome. So you really have a full lineup there. And for everyone that is coming in, if you could please say hello, tell us where you're from and where you're watching from so we can say hello. We got Roxanne Sexton. She put some hearts in the chat. We got Brenda. Brenda is from Michigan. So hello, Brenda. So if you're looking to buy some unique product, Jason is the perfect one. You have 3 locations, right, Jason?
Yeah. We cover basically all of Western Michigan from central to the lakeshore there. We cover really effectively. We go out and always do setups. So if you do get a Grace product, we come into the home, we set it all up, make sure everything's running good. And then of course, unlimited lessons, we make sure you're comfortable with the product. That's the important part. Once you get it, it's fun, but you got to be comfortable with it.
Yeah. So thanks, Jason. And so we also had Patty Hardy from Arizona. Thanks, Patty, for joining us today. And Jason, even though you can't do the setup and things for other people out of state, you'll happily sell to people out of the state, right?
And the good thing is the pandemic was difficult, but it's given us the opportunity to teach differently. So even if you buy out of state, you still get free lessons. We do it on Zoom. We sit in front of our machine, you sit in front of yours. It really works well. We've done a lot of lessons that way too.
Yeah, that's really great. And we got more people. I see we got more people coming in here. Hello from Illinois, Karen Smith. Thank you so much for joining us today. So for those of you tuning in, what we're going to be talking about, other than Gall Sewing Center, is the Little Rebel. So that's what we're really going to be focusing on today, talking about its features and who it's for. And also, if you'll stand up for a second, Ash, we also have Allegra from Grace Company here as well. So, and let's see here. We have also another person, Tammy Schuer, coming in. Thank you for joining, Tammy. All right. So, Jason, you mentioned a couple things there. You said that you do classes, you do setup, and that really is different from a lot of other dealers. There are a few dealers out there that do that, but that is definitely a standout thing. I think with Jason's company is they do the whole thing. If you sell to you, that's not just it, right? There's like some other ones. It's like you buy it, and it's like, all right, goodbye. But they got lifetime classes, and I think that's really awesome.
Yeah, and I mean the other thing too is with the Grace products especially is we see the opportunity to grow with the product, and so that's why we take trade-ins. So we take trade-ins of Grace or anything really. So if you start with a Rebel and you start it on the QD frame, and then all of a sudden you want to move up into a Q-Zone Queen frame and a 16, and then you want to move up, to the 21. That the Grace product line lends itself to that so nicely. So that's why it makes it easy to get into it, get going. And the other thing too, I think that's important to understand is there's a lot of great sewing centers across the country. I mean, selling sewing machines is one thing, but to really understand long arms, we've been a long arm dealer for over 20 years. So I mean that the teaching, the setup, the servicing, all those things are just so different, and so we pride ourselves in doing both things very, very well.
That is great. And Jason, our machines, people have to usually set them up themselves, and it's not like super hard, but like people don't want to have to do it themselves, right? And that's something that you offer. So like an additional, and I love that you offer trade-ins. There's not a lot of other companies that offer trade-ins kind of upfront like you do. Like sometimes when they do trade-in, they'll be like, yeah, we might do that. But you're like, yeah, no, we'll work with you. Yeah, we'll get a trade-in. And that really is great for the Grace Company product. For those of you out there, it's, we got the Little Rebel. You can see on Jason's left, the Little Rebel. And on the right, he's got the 21. So we really have the full lineup, so you can start small and end up big, and whatever it fits your space well.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, for sure.
So Jason, today we're talking about the Little Rebel in specific. And I think when we came out with this machine, it was really great. We had the cutie frame before, right, which is a frame that does any size of quilts, and you could use your own domestic machine on it. So, Jason, tell me a little bit about like I know you didn't have a whole ton of cutie frames, but tell me what you saw with people buying cutie frames when that first came out.
Yeah, I mean the Qt frame has really been successful for us because it's so lightweight. You can store it anywhere, use your home machine. But what we found is just that you outgrow that domestic machine. Maybe you have a machine with a 7-inch throat or a 9-inch throat or 11-inch throat. That's fine, but as that bulk builds up, you lose that quilting space. So that's why I think this is just an awesome little half step up because of the size of the throat, but the speed and the ability to still sew with it. Yeah, the Rebel's phenomenal.
And tell me, Jason, because you talked to a whole ton of people and like you've been in business for forever. Like, what's like the main thing? Like one thing that I've heard, I think that you've heard this too, is like, oh, it's too big, right? Or that's out of my price range, right? Like, what are like some common things you hear from people when they're like in the market for a long arm that are kind of like that?
Yeah, it starts with space. We can talk machines all day long, but first it's what kind of space do you have? And so it's nice the fact that this, frame can fit in really anyone's home. It can fit anywhere and it can be stored so easily off to the side, lightweight, easy. But then the next thing is what we find is you only have so much space to start with. And once you
Right.
start quilting and enjoying it, guess what you find? More
Yeah.
space.
Right. It is. I've heard the same thing a whole ton, Jason. It's like that's like the first thing someone comes up to me at a show or their showroom and they're like, wow, like I don't have any space. Like, and at the beginning, like I'm like, quilters, you really they find space for things. And so it's like how much space can you find in the beginning? The little rebel and the cutie breeze. By the way, I'm gonna give you the dimensions here. It's about 4 and a little bit more than that. So it's like 51 inches wide. Thanks, Allegra. 51 inches wide. So it's really not a lot, and it works on any table. So I'm going to angle a camera down here, and you can see Jason has his on a frame, which it does work on a frame, but this one's on the Breeze frame. This is a work table. You don't have to use a work table. You can use like a lifetime table. So anywhere that you have space, I also heard of people actually using it in their RVs. I don't know if you've ever heard that, Jason.
Yeah, I have.
These quilters are dedicated, So
Yeah.
even people with like larger frames, like they're also like, I can see a use for this in my space. So this one is not actually attached at all. You can see I can just put it on there, and the weight of it actually keeps it on there. So this works on any table. So, and Jason, they talk about space. So if we knocked out, okay, so now we solved the space problem. I also hear price, and it's really expensive because you see the other brands out there and they're expensive.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, well, I can't spend that. Like I already got my own embroidery machine. I already got it's 7,000 whatever in this and that, right? And you're like, I just don't have another dollar to drop on like another thing. So have you heard, is that kind of the next thing comes up, or what's from your experience another thing that people are usually saying is like a problem that they're coming up with?
I think so, and I think it's because a lot of times they know what long arms used to cost.
Yeah.
5 or 10 years ago, they were $10,000 starting price point. Today they're less than half that. So I mean, yeah, it's really become more affordable for everyone to start doing all their own quilts.
Yeah, and let's give you like a little bit of a teaser on the price here. We'll talk about this more later, but Aj, if you could pull up the price, this is a really good deal, and it's exclusively through Jason. So again, his information is on the bottom of the screen. So we're doing a really good price. And Jason, tell me what you think about this price. Like, is it pretty amazing?
That's awesome. That's less than the price of the machine. You get everything.
Yeah. So less of the rest of the retail price of the machine, you're getting everything. So this comes with the machine plus the frame for $28.99. Like plus the $1,000 worth of accessories. Like we're giving away the entire house here.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy. So
I love it.
Sorry, Jason, what were you saying?
No, that's awesome. I love it. That's such a great package. I mean, you really have everything you needed to get started.
Yeah, and more. There's like you're going to be like overflowing. You already have a lot of accessories. We're going to make sure you hooked up because I know that quilters like gadgets. All right, I've heard a few quilters tell me that they like gadgets, they like extras, and so we got extras with this here.
Yeah.
So, all right, Jason, thanks so much for talking with me here a little bit. Let's like take a look. I'm gonna have Adj come up with me here, and we're gonna bring Jason back on after we've talked a little bit more detail, kind of do some education on the Little Rebel here, and then we'll bring him back in to talk more, because that's not the only good pricing that we have. Like there's some other deals, and we'll keep talking about that. So thanks, Jason, for talking to me about what the quilters, the problems that they're running into, and we're going to go ahead and talk about the Little Rebel now.
Yeah,
Awesome.
if anybody has questions, even if you have questions, Jason,
Yeah.
please feel free to put them in the comments. That way we can go back to them when we have time to read them. It's only us here working the computers, so
Yeah.
we'll have to come back and see them after our presentation. But we're excited to jump into the Little Rebel on the Cutie Breeze. So we're going to say goodbye to Jason for
Thanks,
a little
Jason.
bit, and we'll bring him back in just a moment.
So what do we got here? We're working on a laptop here, and so you can see that the Little Rebel is set up on this frame. And so I asked Jason a little bit about a few things that he hears from customers, but tell me what your thoughts are on the Little Rebel, Ash, just from like a general standpoint.
My thoughts on the Rebel. Sorry, that chair was in my way. Okay, one, I have the Rebel at home. So this is the machine that I use at home. Luckily, I do have access to all of our resources at work for our larger frames and automation. So I don't quilt at home, but I do sew at home. I do a lot of sewing.
Yeah.
I love it. I love that, one, it is the size of like a normal sewing machine, or like a pretty standard one that I'm used to seeing in the industry, but it's not small. Like I can get both my hands in there. I can get a large project through that throat space. We have 13 inches, phenomenal. And you're going to see that in a lot of other machines, like some baby lock machines, some of the new Berninas that are coming out. You are going to see a 13 inches or even bigger, but what you're not going to see is the 8.5-inch tall harp. So a lot more height than you see on normal domestic machines, which is fantastic.
Yeah, it has a really great amount of space. Like you're saying, you see that space on other machines, but then when you get that much space, it's like it comes with all these other features, which I love, because those features are great, but that has a hefty price tag. So this one came out specifically because we want to offer the space with all that, without the extra stuff on the sides, kind of pushing up that price. Now it's a more affordable mid-arm machine that you can use for quilting. And also, like you said, you usually use it for sewing, so it does both. Like we have it on this frame now, but this is not like stuck on here. This is actually on a platform that moves around, and you can take it off. So that's how you say you use it at home.
Yes, and I've noticed a big misconception just in the quilter community and the industry is a lot of people think that this machine only belongs to this frame.
Yeah.
But something cool about Grace Company is that our products are designed for you based on your budget, the space you have available, what projects you're kind of going to get into. That way we can mix and match based on your factors, not our factors. And you can start with just the Little Rebel. It does push through free motion quilting as well as sewing. So it's a great starter machine. Even if you think you don't have room for the cutie frame, just the Little Rebel is a great starter as well.
It is a really great way to get started, especially with like the free motion quilting. Like I love it for sewing, but it does have the built-in stitch regulation. So a lot of people are familiar with stitch regulation, but I do get questions every time I say stitch regulation. There's always someone that's like, what is that? And I'm like, I understand that because I didn't know what the heck that was the first either. So stitch regulation is going to keep your stitches the same length apart. So that's the thing when you go and you use a long arm, if you've ever used one before, how it like kind of glides with you and keeps your stitches beautiful. Like that is built right into this machine, and it has a optical encoder there. So you can also do that pushing it around. So it doesn't have to be on a frame if you don't want it. In the bundle that we have today, it's less than actually the machine by itself, so you might as well get the frame, but you don't have to use it. So you can actually push quilt, because I know everyone has their own preferences. I mean, I used it. Have you done some push quilting as well?
I'm gonna be honest,
Yeah.
I'm so bad at push quilting.
Me too.
But I also I don't like it in general, especially as someone who has a hypermobility syndrome.
Yeah.
And so all my fingers go back way further than they should. So push quilting is just a pain for me more than anything. It causes a lot more tension and frustration than it does like, I'm quilting.
And from that, like on that thought too, it's like every time I've ever tried push quilting, I call it like a quilt rodeo. You're like wrangling the fabric. It's also like 1,000,000 pounds. And it's like I'm young and like my joints are still good. Luckily, like I'm blessed that way. But I know a lot of people out there, they're not as fortunate. And so it's like you got to deal with arthritis, you got to deal with the soreness of it. And if I'm getting sore after like 5 minutes, like I can't imagine how much pain people go through to quilt a king size quilt. My respect has gone like way up ever since I tried push quilting because I was so used to moving it around.
Me too, exactly. Yeah. And coming back to having all that, if you are a push quilter, a push through free motion, having all of that fabric in the throat can sometimes one be really hard to get through your throat of the machine or just hard to hold on to it and accommodate that in general, which is a really nice reason that we have this 8.5-inch throat, so that no matter whether you're a push quilter, just a sewer, you're a free motion quilter on a frame, you still have the ability to do all of those functions and features.
Yeah, and I hear all the time from people, like I'm gonna maybe call a few people out here, including myself. It's like we got UFOs, right? Like we got a lot of tops waiting around to be done. And that's for a good reason because push quilting is kind of a nightmare. And if you don't have like a lot of experience with it, if you don't have the strength, it's like, oh, and plus you also spent so much time piecing this beautiful top, like you don't want to mess it up. And so one thing I explain to people with free motion quilting versus the push quilting is like think of it as if you got like a piece of paper, it's like we don't like mount our pencil on something and then like push it around to sign our name. Like that's just not as intuitive. That's not what we've been doing. But what we have been doing since we were young is using our hand for left-handed or right-handed to go ahead and write out your name. And that's how like way easier to do designs. Because like quilt designs are not easy, right? They're all curvy, they need to be smooth. It's like if you're doing this like a completely different way, it's just like not the same in your brain. It's not as easy.
Yes. I always say, like, if you have always been a push through free motion quilter, you've got it down pat, you don't need us to say, oh, it's like this compared to this. Usually you guys are 100% push through quilters. And I honestly, we were just talking about that, so impressed and a lot of respect for you because it feels like a lot more work and a lot more holding on and a lot more just like intuition in terms of getting that pattern in there. But when I talk to new quilters or when people are walking by the booths at shows, I'm like, hey, do you want to try it out? And most of the time you get the people who are like, yes. But you also get the people who are like, oh, I don't want to hurt it. I don't want to break it. I don't really know what I would do. And I always tell them, imagine you have a pencil just mounted to some handlebars and you're just drawing with a pencil. And, that helps a lot of people make that, okay, maybe it's not as scary as I thought it was in the brain. But also, our machines are heavy duty machines. Even though they're made for professionals, amateurs, hobbyists, people who just like to quilt for fun, they are heavy duty machines. And when I say that, I mean it. At this last show that I was at, I had a little 6-year-old who was there with her grandma and she just wanted to try the machines so bad. And I was like, I'm not going to tell you no. If I get to introduce a little 6-year-old to quilting, it's really a great day. This little girl absolutely had the time of her life. Even on the Little Rebel, she's taken this thing and she's just...
You get some race car drivers.
Yeah. Not a broken needle, not a skipped stitch. She had the time of her life and the machine didn't fight back or anything. So I always say, if you're fresh to quilting and you're a little nervous, a 6-year-old can do it, which means we can do it.
If a 6-year-old can, we can, all right? We just got to maybe relax a little bit. We just have to go for it.
Remember what it was like to be 6 and not to be scared of things,
Yeah.
And just have some fun.
Yeah, it is definitely scary, but that's what I love about Grace Company as well. Because once you get started, you're like, oh, because it is like professional heavy duty equipment, but at the same time, it's like user friendly. So it's kind of like something that's scary put into a box that's not longer scary anymore, and like very usable, user friendly. And also, you can't really see the controls from here, but they're super easy. There's like buttons to adjust and up and down the speed, and also
we'll cut back to a close back later because I can
pull our camera around
and I can show you. But I think we need to see this machine in action. But we are missing a couple features that we're just gonna roll over really quick. Unlike a lot of other machines in the industry, Grace Company machines, including the Little Rebel, they don't require any type of yearly servicing. So you don't have to box it up once a year and send it back to us for yearly servicing. And that's just because all the maintenance is just done by you. Routine maintenance, super easy peasy. One of my favorite things about the Little Rebel is how easy it is to access those maintenance areas, actually.
Yeah, it's super easy.
It's super easy. So we always want to undo this piece of thread from one of the thread tensioners because it swings open on the hood. So unless you want to pull your thread like really far out, you want to unhook that. And we're going to swing it open. Look at that, just like a door.
Boom, like it comes right open, super easy access.
Yes.
Yeah, get that a little bit closer.
Get it a little closer so you guys can see. So look at that. Just swings open, super easy to access it. Couple drops of oil around the needle bar and you're good to go.
Yeah, and that is something that I do hear a lot is like people are worried about what the service is, and there's like not any service you really need to do. You need to keep the bobbin area clean from lint. So brush that out. I just come with a small brush, but I like a pipe cleaner. Like usually that's the one that I like the best.
I mean, even if you have like a little vacuum.
Yeah, like
yes. So I have
vacuum.
a little handheld vacuum, and it works great for that. But
That's
you don't
awesome.
want to use compressed air, or else you do risk blowing all of that lint and dust into the machine rather than pulling it out. So no go on compressed air when it comes to cleaning out your bobbin area.
No go.
That this machine has that you don't see in a lot of sewing machines
Oh.
is it does have a bobbin winder, one built in, but also the bobbin is a front-loading bobbin. So we just pull it out from the front. We don't need to pull our machine to the side, unclip, flip up our fabric.
That is like such a lifesaver because like
Yes.
on this sort of frame, by the way, it's like a lot of domestic machines that you'd be using your own domestic machine, like a lot of Jukis, you gotta kind of like put up this panel and then like reach in. But this one, you just like reach right there and grab it.
Yes, which is so nice. I have a vintage top-loading bobbin machine at home. I can't stand it. And I don't even quilt on that machine. I just sew and I'm like, gotta open it up from the top.
And like you said too, it's a separate bobbin winder motor. So like a lot of times you'll have to like click something over so that way you can like use it. And that usually involves you like unthreading it. But this one has 2 thread mask spots. You can't really see it here in the shot. We'll bring it around a little bit later so you can see it in some more detail. But that lets you wind another one at the same time. And it's the M-class bobbin too.
Yes.
Like that's another thing. It's twice the size of a regular domestic machine bobbin. And I always say this, Aj, I think what people can agree, like the party's over when the bobbin stops. It's like you're having a good time. It's like record scratch. It's like,
Yes.
you're like, oh, or like I was kind of in the zone there. I was like doing some beautiful designs, and it's like, my bobbin's out. So it's great to have like twice as much time before that happens again.
Yes. So you get about 35% more thread on an M-class bobbin compared to an L or a 15 class, which you typically find in regular sewing machines. So more thread, you're going to run out not as soon. So, you're going to have a lot bobbin thread for a little bit longer. But just like Jarek said, it runs on its own motor with the bobbin winder. So let's say you're really interested in automation and you're like, I want automation on my Little Rebel and my Cutie Grease, which you can do, by the way.
Well, that's crazy, by the way. We got to talk more about that later. Like, that's crazy.
So, you're really having a good time with automation, or maybe you're even quilting with a friend, your friend's over, maybe you guys share your machine and your frame a little bit. You don't have to stop quilting to wind your bobbin.
Yeah.
Which I think is cool. So we could be going along and your friend can be back there winding your bobbin for you, or maybe you're just doing automation. You can sneak back there, do it on your own. So that's really fun and cool too.
That is really great. I love the separate bobbin winder. And I love, like, there's also like this little area up here on the handles that you can't see super well, but like you can store your bobbins here so you can have them right on hand. So you can like take them out of the slot. So like we have a few here. It is like put in this little spot right here. So you can have them all stored up, and then when you run out, you take it out, and then boom, you put another one in, and you're back in action.
Oh yeah. And then the holes on the side have magnets in the bottom, so you can organize any of your needles, any safety pins, anything that you use for basting or just pinning in general. And then we have 4 holes for you can hold your scissors, because nothing's worse, one, to have a heavy piece of scissors that are creating maybe a little bit of sag.
Yeah.
And maybe the closest thing is to have them on your fabric. But with the new carriage organization, all of your supplies are just going to be right there where you can grab them. Your bobbin, your needles. You can even put, instead of pins, you could put extra needles up here if you're really feeling like it. So
Yeah, you could. And I love that it has this scissor thing that you're saying, because like the alternative is you put it around your neck so you have it somewhere, and then like the sewing room gnomes steal it because like you put it down somewhere and then it's just gone. It just disappears. That happens to me like all the time with like several things that are not in my sewing room, like just on my desk, like they just disappeared. I have nothing to do with it. I have nothing to do with it. It's the gnomes. Anyway, so you can, when you're like hanging over, it like swings down in front of you, or like I had like one of those like little retractable ones, and I like let go of it. I wasn't thinking, and it like moved up towards me, and I was like, oh my gosh! I was like,
I did that the other day. True fear is when you have a pair of scissors, really just like
yeah, it comes back at you. So it's always like I need a good spot to put my scissors, and I love that small detail. There's like honestly a lot of small details here that just make your quality of life when you're finishing project easier, which is what you want, because like you need to get into the zone. You need to be able to finish it. And like that's part of why we get distracted. We go work on other projects, or the internet's calling us, or we watch another sewing video, so having less things to interrupt you, you stay more focused, you get more done.
Yes. All right. Should we take it in action?
We should take a little bit of action. So like, should I like move this up? Can I hold it if you want to do it? Well,
I mean, you can hold it, whatever you want me to do.
So yeah, or show us some stitching.
So, okay, we're going to do some stitching. So this lovely handle right here, this isn't a regulator. It's not a speed control. This is just a start, stop, needle up and down button that connects directly into the foot pedal of the machine.
Which is great.
So what that means is I don't have to use a foot pedal to do my quilting, and I don't have to reach around and press my start, stop button. All my functions that I'm going to need, needle up and down, start and stop, are right here, which is in a very accessible place to get to.
Yeah, and it comes with it too. So like you don't need to get any of these extra accessories or anything. Like this little handle piece right here, everything that you're seeing right here, this all comes with that, that price.
And if you're left-handed, it can go on the left side perfectly. It doesn't matter if it's on the right or left. But we're going to do some stitches. We're going to do some swirls, and we're just going to take it away. So you'll notice that this has stitch regulation built in. So when I speed up, the stitches will speed up, and when I slow down, it's going to slow down. And that's what we're going to see right here.
Yeah, so you can see it like speeding up and slowing down.
Now, that last little bit where it was like going really fast and trying to keep up with me, that's because I went over 1,600 stitches per minute. So it's not hurting the machine, but regulation can only accommodate up to the 1,600 stitches per minute. So it's not hurting the machine, but it's just letting me know that my stitches aren't going to be perfect anymore, and that I need to slow it down if I'm looking for perfect stitches.
Right. And I always call it like almost a little bit relative stitches per inch. Like it is pretty precise, but if you get it a little bit faster, it is going to mess it up like you were saying. So it is really fast though compared to a lot of domestic machines out there. A lot of them have like 1,000 around there. And isn't this one, it's got 1,700 total, right? You were saying 1,600. 1,600.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, and then here we're going to see we have some lighting up here. These are our buttons and options for our stitches per inch. So when I have quilting mode or regulation mode turned on, which is this blue Q over here, when it's on, you'll notice that these lights on the left are available, but the ones on the right are not. That's because with regulation mode, we can adjust our stitches per inch, which is what this is up here. But it's not going to let us change our speed because the regulation is doing that for us. So if we speed up, it'll speed up. If I slow down, it'll slow down. So we can't adjust the speed in regulation mode because the regulation is doing the speed for us.
It's automatically choosing that for us,
Yes.
keeping it precise.
But if I take regulation mode off, we'll notice that this blue light turns off and I lose these lights over here. So these are my stitches per inch, and then this is going to be my speed. Now in manual mode, I don't get to pick my stitches because the machine's going to be stitching at a constant speed. So the stitch size is going to be based on how fast or slow I move the machine. But,
I love the stitch regulation, but there is sometimes that you want to use like the manual. Like,
Yes.
like people have like their preferences, kind of their preferences for what they want to do.
I think manual, so I'm going to show you guys manual right now, 2 steps down from as fast as it goes. Manual is best for micro stippling or any tiny tight turns and curves that you need to make.
There you go.
So we can't get you super close. I don't know if they can see them.
Yeah, the lights are bright.
Oh,
So
there we go. Okay.
something we
So-
forgot to say is it also has like throat lights and also lights down here. So it's bright for the camera, but I love how much light because you can never have
Yes.
enough light.
Exactly. I love to show people how to stitch it in manual mode, especially at shows, because usually they are looking at the cutie and they think, oh, I need a regulated machine to use it with.
Right.
And or they get a little nervous because they're like, how are my stitches going to look if I don't have regulation on my current machine? And so I always, one, I demonstrate, but I also show them how to do it in manual mode. So one, they don't feel as intimidated, but two, to show them that even though I wasn't going a consistent space, my stitches still look pretty good.
Yeah, they are pretty dang
They
good.
look pretty consistent. So it's also to show you that even if you don't have stitch regulation, it's still easy to do that free motion quilting.
It is, yeah. And like I do like love manual for some things, but the option of being able to choose, like, do I want to like deal with doing the manual? Because it is like
Yes.
maybe it's kind of like another additional like brain process, you know. It's kind of once you get into it, you don't have to think as much about it, but it does take up some of your thinking. So I find that it kind of can interrupt my thinking of like going smoothly with the patterns because it's just like one more factor I'm trying to think about. And that's also like when you're push quilting too, you have to like manually regulate that. But it's also great. It's not as difficult as you might think. So if you don't have a machine or you don't want to get the little Rebel, we do have pricing on the Breeze, which you can use with your own domestic machine. And then you can always, Jason, he does trade-ins. So I'm sure he can work with you on a trade-in. So
I always say, like, if you're interested in the cutie, but maybe not the little Rebel, and you want to put your own machine on there, that's what the cutie was originally designed for. So before
Right.
we even came out with the little Rebel, we had our original cutie, which was just for domestic sewing machines. We would tell customers you can put our 16s, our 19s on there, but really it's made for your own machine. So there are a lot of people out there who do free motion on a frame with the cutie that don't have stitch regulation. And I always say, imagine yourself as the feed dogs now.
yeah.
Because when you're sewing,
Right.
whatever speed you have the machine at, whether it's a foot pedal or a start stop button, the feed dog pulls the fabric through at the same speed as stitches. So you get those nice stitches when you're sewing. But when you're doing free motion on a frame, you have to disengage your feed dogs, or you can end up with broken needles, ripped thread, a damaged machine like internally. And so when you're doing free motion without regulation, just picture yourself as the feed dogs. Think if I were sewing, how fast would the feed dogs be pulling the fabric through right now?
I love that. That's such a great
And
way to
then
think
that
about it.
helps you find like a happy medium to find that speed when you're doing free motion on a frame. So even if your stitches aren't 100% consistent, as long as you find that speed that's a nice in between, they're going to look consistent.
That's awesome. That's great. And you know, tying this all back in, and thank you so much for your demonstration on that, Adge. Like we tried to get a good shot as we could there, but tying this all back in, like at the end of the day, what I really like see people wanting this machine for, and I want you to share too, Adge, like what do you see people wanting this machine for? I see them because we've got projects that we got to work on, and also it's getting really expensive to send your quilts out. It's like
Yes.
by the time you actually send your entire stash out, it's like you could have bought a machine and
You
done
can
it
buy,
yourself.
like, 4 cuties.
And so I just want everyone to imagine like their stack of things that they have to do, and then if that was just done, right? And we got the holiday coming up too, so I know we're going to be giving gifts away. That's what quilters love to do. So if I could just be done with those
Yes.
and do it myself for an affordable price, like that just feels like a relief
Yeah.
to me. You know?
Well, and if you do the math, the cutie's on a summer sale, $5.49 through all of our dealers. And depending on how large your quilt is, it can be somewhere between $200 to $400 to get someone else to quilt your quilt for you. So after you've already done 2 quilts yourself on here, you've already paid for the cutie,
Seriously, yeah,
Yeah.
it's like almost $250 each piece.
And then you're saving money if you actually think about it, because then you're doing your own quilting and you're not having to pay $200 to $400 to send out your quilts for someone else to quilt them for you.
And something else I know, we love working together as quilters, but at the same time, it's like it's kind of like our work, you know? And so it always felt a little bit weird to me sending it to somebody else and being like, here, finish my project for me. Like some people, they don't like the quilting. It's like, okay, like that's fair. But for me, it's like, I kind of enjoy that. And I'm like, why would I not just do it myself? And it's kind of like finishing out your own art piece. Like I feel a little bit more sense of pride when I'm done with it because you're like, whoa, like I did this. I did everything. I did every single part of this. This is all my hard work. And that's a really satisfying feeling.
It is. So back to your question about the Little Rebel, what are
Right,
people
right.
looking for with it? I've noticed, I just went to a show recently, is that they have already a dedicated piecing machine, one
Right,
that has
right.
built-in stitches, one that can do your buttonholes, all of that stuff, maybe even embroidery too. But what they don't have is a quilting machine.
Yep.
And a lot of people are kind of stuck in this budget point right now. And so to them, the Little Rebel is in a perfect price point, but it's also a quilting machine that has built-in regulation. So that's what I've been seeing with the Little Rebel is people looking for a lower cost quilting machine, but they already have a dedicated like piecing and sewing machine.
So for those of you watching, I would ask yourself, do you fit in that category? Do you already have a machine that you love that does piecing? And you're like, maybe we could use a sewing machine to finish these other products. Like, think if that is you, then this could be a potential opportunity if you're interested in being able to finish your own quilts, have that extra gadget, one that is great for quilting and also doesn't take up a lot of space. This fits right in with what you're looking for.
Yes, exactly. Now, with space, a lot of people tell me I could find about 5 feet of space to put it on.
Right.
But I don't have anywhere to store it. Like I can't keep it up all the time.
Right.
Now, this is where cool things come in with the cutie. We have magnetic tags.
I want to show them.
Okay, yeah. So we have these magnetic tags on each side.
I love this.
You pull them out and watch. I can take the whole hoop off.
It breaks down.
It breaks down into technically 4 pieces. The hoop, the bottom frame with the tracks, and then your 2 carriages.
I also want to show this because, sorry, I'm wiggling this so much, but I want to come around the side here a little bit. Can't really see it too well. Can you see right here on the screen? I love these screws because they have like this little stop in there and they like don't come out. So like you can unscrew it and disassemble the bottom and it's like, I'm not going to lose the screws.
Yes.
You know, small detail, but this was designed to come apart and be able to put back together.
Yes, and a lot of people, this has been a trend with the original Cutie and with the Cutie Breeze as well, is a lot of customers, if they don't have somewhere that they can keep it up all the time, they get bicycle rack hooks.
Oh, that's
They
so
screw them
smart.
in either to their sewing room ceiling, to the garage, like in a closet they can store stuff. And then when they're done using the Cutie, they just hang the whole thing up. So it's out of the way, it's off the floor, but they can still use it for their quilting when they're ready.
That's great. Like those bicycle ones, you just lift it right up out of the way because, man, quilters, we got like a serious amount of gear, a lot of fabric, a lot of sewing machines, a lot of So to be able to save that space, choose what I want to do.
Your rulers, your cutters, all of that stuff.
Being able to switch it out for the project that I'm working out is great, especially if it's easy to switch.
Yes.
So can you think of anything else? I think we should maybe bring Jason back on and also talk about the giveaways.
Yes.
Do some drum rolls because this was a pre-registration, by the way. If you got Jason's emails, if you came to our website to register for that, we have 2 awesome giveaways today. One is this light bar and one is a quilters combo. So let's go ahead and bring Jason back on. Jason, welcome back.
Yeah, thanks.
So we're wrapping up here, but again, I just want to say, so for those of you that saw this and you're like fit in with what Allegra was talking about if you're a quilter that already has a machine, but you're looking to go into sewing, if you're fit into that, Jason is the perfect person to go get that set up from. Because again, like you said in the beginning, Jason, you got 3 locations in Michigan, but also if they're interested, they can give you a call. You're easy to get a hold of, and you love giving them a good deal. And the deal that we have today, by the way, Jason, right? Like we were saying earlier, that's pretty dang awesome.
Yeah, that's awesome. And if I could add something to what you were saying earlier,
Oh, please.
there's several people that were mentioning in the chat, they just got the QD Breeze. So if that's the case, you can call me and we can buy back the bundle so that they can just get the machine, or they can get the machine with some of the bundle. We'll work out a package, because I know there's several that already bought the Breeze, and we'll still hook you up with the little Rebel at a really good deal with some really great savings and some additional products. So I want to share that. And the second thing is, for those that already have the Rebel and they're using their domestic machine, one of the things that we teach you to do to start with, because you were talking about consistency of stitching and things like that, is just turn the machine all the way up to a higher speed than what you think you need and just start stitching on a practice piece, and just start stitching. And the more you stitch, what you'll do is you'll work on a specific pattern. You're doing loops, you're doing swirls, you're doing a meander. You'll find you're going to get yourself a consistent movement. Once you get your consistent movement, you can set the speed of your machine to that movement. So don't try to catch up to the machine. Don't try to slow down to the machine. No, adjust the machine for you. Most people have a speed control in their machines. So get a consistent movement, set your speed, and you're going to be amazed how good your stitches look.
Yeah, that's awesome. Jason, I just want to say I love that. And for everyone here, I love that you're willing to work out a deal with them. Like, for if you already have one, like not all dealers do that. So Jason, that's totally awesome. So please give them a call. Jason, I know you like working deals, right? You like getting people what they like and what they would need. So, and I love that you have your classes, because that's something too, because we were talking about earlier, what are some reasons why people don't want to buy? And it is that, I'm kind of scared. So Jason, what you're explaining with how you teach people, that really helps break down the barrier of how do I get started in this thing I have no experience with? How do I get started free motion quilting? Because it's intimidating.
And another thing.
Wait, sorry, Jason. I just like to tell people that before I started this job, I'd never touched a quilting machine. I'd never done any type of quilting before. And I'm always like, as much as I am a little bit embarrassed about it, but I also tell people I've never actually made a quilt start to finish. And if I've never actually made a quilt and I can use these machines, then quilters who already have like a really good knowledge base, you guys are able to use them way easier than me.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I think another thing too, you were mentioning with talking about, it's great to put it on the QD Breeze or a Q-Zone hoop frame or a Q-Zone queen frame. Any of those packages, we can work those out as well. But just sitting at the machine, coming with that extension table and doing the free motion work with the integrated stitch regulation that it has is pretty amazing. So fighting the quilt is something people will do on a domestic machine, but even when this, you're really not fighting. It is smooth. It's easy. I mean, you'll be amazed when you get, the machine at home, even without this frame, because maybe you really truly don't have 4 feet. You can set something up. The machine on a table with its extension table is an amazing quilting machine. It really is.
Yeah, it really is. And you can always add it later too. So, and that's something about Grace Company. We have so many different products. Let's be honest, I will admit it can be a little bit overwhelming. So that's why we have Jason. He understands them all. We understand them all, but give him a call, because he can help you arrange for what you need, because he has a really great understanding. Also, like you said, Jason, you've been with us forever. So if you're not sure, because he mentioned a couple of different frames there. He mentioned Q-Zone Queen, and by the way, we're not doing just sales on this. So if you're like, yeah, well, I do have some more space, maybe I want something a little bit bigger, give him a call. He'll help you out. So let's talk a little bit more about some of the other pricing. We're just going to talk about we have QCT, by the way. Another time we might be doing a live video on the QCT, Jason. Maybe we can think about doing that, because you can use that automation on this little machine. So that's crazy. It's like you can have like an automatic stitch regulator on this. You can put it on here and it will stitch it out for you. Yeah. So we do have special pricing. It was just up there for a second, but if you have questions on that, Jason knows the pricing on that.
And it's pretty exciting that it's really exciting to have $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 to get automation. But you're bringing in, as you saw on that slide, for under $3,000, you now can have a machine fully automated, $26.99. And if you buy the whole package, you'll get some maybe additional gifts and savings as well. So we'll work out some things for you.
Yeah, and like I can't do the math in my head, but 2,000 plus another 2,000, it's like, is that like about 5,000, a little bit over 5,000 for,
Yeah.
it's just a little bit over 5,000 for a fully regulated machine. Like that's insane. Like
It is.
that's insane. So Jason, let's do the giveaways now. So we're gonna do a little bit of a drum roll. The first one that we're gonna give away is a quilter's combo. It is a ruler, comfort cutter, True Grips. This is a great system. It has like a track guide. I love True Cut. It's great price. So you're gonna love it, whoever gets it. So let's do a little bit of a drum roll. Everyone in the chat, do a little bit of a drum roll and go ahead and who won it. So Roberta Merwin, congratulations. You have won the Quilters Combo. So please contact us, Allegra@graceframe.com. Allegra, who has been so awesome, giving us so much awesome content today. So contact them and they will send that out to you. So Merwin, if you're here, contact Allegra. And then the next one, which I'm super excited about, is we have here, like we were talking about how bright it is.
Oh
like,
yeah, let's turn that guy
boom.
on. Whoa!
Like,
This is why we didn't turn it on for the
yeah.
video.
like it's bright, right?
Flashes
Like
everything out.
yeah. So I'm super excited for someone to win this right now. So let's give another drum roll because I can't wait to see what it's gonna be. Go ahead, put it up. What's it gonna be? Cinda Cogswell, congratulations! You won the 10-foot light bar. Wow, or that is amazing.
Yes, and if you were a winner, please email me. I have your name, but I don't have your email address. I don't have your address. So if you want your giveaway, please email me, Allegra@gradestring.com, so I can get that out to you.
Awesome. So, man, this is so bright. I love being able to do this. And Jason, you sell the light bars. So if you didn't win and you're like, I need some more light because I know everyone always needs some light. Unless you have someone that's like, I know there's a few ladies like my husband custom installed something. Like I'm jealous of you. But if you don't have a husband that's gonna like custom install lights for you, light bar is awesome.
Yes, and let me tell you about this light bar. I like to do my makeup. I usually don't do it before work because I prefer to sleep. But nothing is better when doing your makeup than appropriate lighting.
Yeah.
And I have genuinely thought about switching out my ring light for one of our light bars.
Yeah, it's so,
just to do my makeup. That's it.
That's great.
That's
so
how
bright.
good they are.
And even like those light bars there that are 5 foot, you can get a
Right.
10, but even the 5 foot, it sits over many sewing cabinets perfectly too. So you can put it on wheels, you can wheel it over top of your quilter, you can wheel it over top of your sewing machine. I mean, it is awesome.
Yep, it comes on those casters, just like you're saying, fits over a whole ton of things.
And if you don't have floor space, you just take out that middle bar and they can be a tabletop light bar.
That's awesome. So let's do a little bit of review here because we've given those away. We've gone over a lot of information. So let's go ahead. This is Jason, Gall Sewing Center, 3 locations in Michigan. We got the information on the bottom, and the phone number there is for the store. And you can also email Jason at his email right there. This is jason@gallsewingcenter.com, or you can visit their website. So anyone that's in state, anyone that's out of state, like you said, Jason, you have the virtual classes because we figured that out during COVID. Wow, that was an experience, wasn't it? We figured that all out during COVID. Gall Sewing Center can offer you those classes, which, by the way, I recommend people who are in Michigan or out of Michigan to Gall Sewing Center because of those additional things that he does as a dealer that other dealers don't usually do.
Yes, and we're always going to recommend that you purchase through our dealers, mainly because if you purchase through a dealer, you still get help from Grace Company. So when going through a dealer, you're going to get support from Gall Sewing, but also from Grace Company. So it's kind of like having dual places that you can go for help or questions.
Yeah, and if you're in Michigan, like go to one of their stores because there's not a lot of stores out there that have the whole lineup there. So you can see again, Jason, you got the Little Rebel, you got the 21, you got the whole shebang in your store. So you got the QCT. And by the way, like we were saying, having a class with QCT, that's amazing. Like having someone be able to kind of help you out when you're first navigating that's so great. And then also the pricing. So Jason, we're going to go ahead and we are going to be able to hold the pricing for a week.
Okay.
And after that, it's kind of like you're out of luck, right? So there is some urgency to it with the pricing. This is really great pricing. And
Yeah.
again, Jason, just like from our other shows and stuff that we do, usually the best pricing is at show, right? And how is this pricing compared to show pricing?
Oh, it's awesome. That package you can't beat. You really can't.
Yeah, you really can't beat it. So again, I want to thank everyone for watching.
Just to note, it happens to be Wednesday, so our stores close every Wednesday. So if you call and no one answers, don't be surprised. We are closed Wednesday, so we'll call you tomorrow. But if you email me, we'll get in touch with you as soon as possible if you have questions and things like that. But also too, I mean, as far as just the range of products that we have, we can always help you. We have layaway financing, all kinds of options too to make sure you're taken care of.
And that's awesome. Like, so do you trade-ins? Like if someone, like you said, you were going to do that trade-in options, but if someone, like you have had a lot of customers, because eventually with a little Rebel, like people want a little bit more space, right? And you offer a way for them to go down the road, because that's one thing that I like is that you don't get like stuck with one thing when you're like, maybe I want a little bit more, right?
And that's even like you mentioned earlier, different machines, whether it be a Juki or some other straight stitch machine that might be on the market. I mean, this can replace that machine so easily. You'll be so comfortable with it. And I don't know, maybe you mentioned it, I was daydreaming, but I mean, having the M class bobbins, those big M
Right.
bobbins, it's huge. Everyone else is using an L bobbin in their high speed straight stitch machine. The L bobbin is tiny. So this is going to hold twice as much thread almost. So, I mean, that goes a long way.
Right. So for anyone out there who's got a stack of UFOs that they're thinking about getting done, and you're tired of using your small machine and you want to get something that's going to be a lot easier for it, if this seems like it's a good fit for you, which I really think it's a great fit for a lot of people, but if you're thinking, when we were talking about earlier, if this is something that is going to work for you, again, like you said, the store's closed today, but please give them a call because they're super helpful, and there's the classes. It's just a lot of great stuff going on. So do you have any other thoughts on that, Jason, before we go ahead and end the live here?
No, I just think that's the key is if you are local and you can come out and try it out, it's always great. I mean, our Grand Rapids store is 18,000 square feet. So we took
That's
over
huge.
a sporting goods store. So everything is, set up on display. Our other stores, everything's set up a little bit smaller, but we still have that full representation for you to try it. And otherwise, I mean, we Zoom all the time. So if you have questions, I'll get on Zoom with you and we can go over this whole product more personal. You can ask questions. So if you're out of the state or you're a little ways away and you can't make it in, definitely, just give me a call. We'll set up a Zoom meeting and we can, talk face to face and go over the features that would benefit you the most. So.
Right. And I'll just say this too, from Grace Company's perspective, Jason, we've been doing a business a long time together, and that's for a good reason, because you're a great dealer. So for anyone who's on the edge, if you're like, I don't know, it's like, well, like another drop in your bucket is that you're going through such a great dealer. So if you've been thinking about it, looking about it, going through directly through us, like Allegra said, make sure you go through a dealer because it's that extra support. And Jason is a wonderful choice there in Michigan. So
yeah, we've been in business for 75 years. So
yeah,
we're here to stay.
75 years. Like that's a long time. So they've got a really great reputation, a lot of history. So let's just go ahead and kind of end it on that. I just want to say thank you so much, Jason, for being here, and thank you everyone else who tuned in from all around. We had a whole ton of people from different places. And if you have any questions, again, give Jason a call, send him an email. They'll help you out.
Yes,
thanks, guys.
absolutely. Thank you
All
so
right.
much for joining us.
Hey, everyone, you take care. Everyone go ahead and end now.
Bye.